Hello, and thank you for joining us for our session, What About Us? Engaging in social emotional support for faculty and staff members. This is extremely important in the space where we are now, dealing with the pandemic, having to socially and physically distance. This is something different for educators. So, today we want to provide you with strategies to support you in supporting your faculty and staff. We have three things that we hope you will gain by the end of the session. So please read those if you have any questions, comments, aha moments, or something that you feel like we haven't touched on. Feel free to use the chat box to share your questions and comments. Who are we? We are educators on a mission to inspire others to engage. I am Dr. Renee C. Meeks. I'm a principal at Shelby County Schools at the elementary level. I've been in education for over 20 years. I've served as a classroom teacher at the elementary, middle, and high school level. I've also served as an assistant principal and now as a principal. I've also worked in education and the nonprofit sector. I really enjoy being an educator. I enjoy mentoring and I enjoy talking about engaging others and how to provide strategies around social emotional learning.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Tarcia Gilliam-Parrish. I'm also an educator. I started as a substitute teacher and now I am a principal at a middle school. And together we have co-founded the company, The Power of Engagement, where our mission is to inspire others to engage.
And while we are going through this session, if you do not follow us on social media, feel free to follow us at the Power of Engagement. Also, tag us on social media if you hear something that just makes that light bulb go off, that aha moment. Also, tag the Pi Conference at TNPIE 2021.
So before we begin, we ask that you drop in the chat something that you're grateful for today, something that you're grateful for. As you know, in this virtual space, it's always good to build a positive rapport with your colleagues and your coworkers. And having a daily routine is one of those ways that adults and students can feel comfortable in the space and drop a positive note in the atmosphere. And we know for social emotional learning, it's important to share the space and give way to positive, engaging strategies. So one thing that you're grateful for.
And as Tarsha said, it's great to check the pulse of your staff before school, just to see how they're doing. The questions can vary from asking them how they're doing, asking them what a goal they have set for themselves, or asking them to share positive, encouraging quotes or just positive, encouraging words that lifts them up when they're down.
And one way we've been doing that this year, we have a morning and an afternoon huddle. During those morning and afternoon huddles, we'll allow faculty and staff members to share motivational quotes, their favorite songs, their favorite poems, their favorite color. This way you get to know who you're working with and build relationships even virtually. So now we're going to move into another question. So what is your number one concern about this school year? What is your number one concern? Is it building relationships virtually, engaging students in distance learning, social and emotional wellness of your students, or the social and emotional wellness of your faculty and staff? So drop in the chat 1, 2, 3, or 4. We've been doing presentations all over the country prior to the worldwide pandemic. And most of our presentations, number 4, the social and emotional wellness of faculty and staff member, is always last. And so during this presentation, we're going to share ways that you can positively engage your adult staff members.
And we ask ourselves why engagement is important. Why is social emotional support important? During this time, well, let me back up and stop saying during this time. During this time, it just brings it to the forefront. But Social emotional support for faculty and staff, we should have already had that at the top of our list because, as Tarcia said, as educators, we always put ourselves last. So it's like, who's checking on the strong person? Who's checking on the supporter of the people who need support? So one thing that having these strong social emotional supports do is it builds a supportive environment within your school. The people in your building know that they are cared about, that you care about what is actually going on with them, what supports that they need. We've been in a season where people have experienced a lot of loss, and they'll come into the building like nothing has happened because they feel like, I have to do my job as an educator because these people need me. But we have to have that supportive environment that supports our faculty and staff. And that leads to teacher retention. If they're in a place where they love to be, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell other educators, they're going to tell parents. And I definitely would want to be at a place where I'm valued. And it's a place where your students thrive. If you're, it's like a happy wife, happy life. If the teachers are happy, they're going to work extremely hard to ensure that their students are happy. And it creates a positive environment because it's a place where everybody wants to be, students, faculty, staff, and leaders.
And as adult learners, it's so important to learn about empathy and equity in all parts. And we know that empathy and equity is a part of social emotional growth and learning for adults. And so we need to talk about the difference between empathy versus sympathy. We need to talk about teaching empathy to your colleagues, your faculty, staff members, and your students, empathy statements, scenarios, and the benefits of teaching empathy. And so we're going to, I guess you're saying, why SEL? Right now, SEL is so important. It's important because it helps build connections and drives engagement of the students and adults in your building. And we all know that building connections and supports are always important. Mental health during this time has been one of the challenges to make sure you maintain a positive mental health and outlook. So let's take a look at this video, and we'll discuss on the other end. While watching the video, think about how we can increase our emotional wellness and how we can tell the difference between empathy and sympathy for our teachers and students.
So, what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection, sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy: perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth; staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do; recognizing emotion in other people, and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, "I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed." And then we look and we say, "Hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone." Sympathy is, "Ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich?" Um, Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time because, you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
And so in the video, Dr. Brene Brown reminds us that we can only create a genuine empathetic connection if we are brave enough to really get in touch with our own shortcomings, if we're brave enough to talk about the environment that actually is creating a positive action toward the other person. You teaching empathy by itself is not enough. And we know this. So when you're working with your adults in the building or wherever in the office space, remember, there are 3 different types of empathy. There is emotional empathy, feeling something because someone else does. Then it's cognitive empathy, that's perspective taking, involving feelings plus thinking and putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And then there's compassionate empathy, that empathy that leads to action, seeing someone in need and offering them that to help fill that need. So do you have any thoughts in the chat? Let's talk about how do you show empathy in your space for the adults? And so as we stated before, the components of adult social and emotional environment will create a positive culture. It's trauma-informed approach for the students and the adults. Don't just focus on the students and leave the adults out of it. The adults are leading the work, but they also have to we as leaders have to be compassionate to make sure we're creating an environment for the adults and the students. Self-care and wellness is important as well, and social and emotional health is very important. So let's talk about empathetic listening. And so you're going to, I recently watched the Pixar movie Inside Out, in which inside of the movie, it has so many great lessons. There are lesson plans on Inside Out. There are professional developments that encompasses all of the virtues in Inside Out. And so we're going to take a real quick look at this short. It's a couple of minutes long. And then on the other side, we'll talk about what we saw inside of this video. And while you're jotting down your notes, think about the characters in the short clip. Think about how they're managing their emotions. Think about how they become aware of the other characters' emotions and how they develop empathy to build relationships.
My rocket! Wait, Riley and I were still using that rocket. It still has some song power left. Who's your friend who likes to play? No, you can't take my rocket to the ducks. Riley and I go to the moon. Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
Come on. The train station is this way.
And so in this clip, the movie goes into the mind of an 11-year-old girl, Riley, and she's from Minnesota. And then she moves to San Francisco with her parents. The leading characters of the movie, however, are Riley's primary emotions. Cleverly characterized in the movie, they are joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. These are 5 of the 6 scientifically validated universal emotions as identified by Paul Ekman. Moving towards a difficult time, you can see in that clip that Riley's emotions were high. She was sad, but what comforted her was her friends empathetic listening to her, her friends, her other emotions empathetically listening to her. And so when you're trying to be an empathetic listener, it's so important that you managing your emotions. Our emotions drive our behavior. It drives our decision making. It drives it drives the way we understand and intercept messages from others. Our emotions are really driving force. So while joy is depicted in the short clip, all of a sudden sadness comes, and under the pressure, Riley, her emotions are just like all over the place. And as a leader, when you feel yourself losing control, it might help to just pause, stop, take a deep breath, and then come back to the situation, because under pressure, our emotions, they go haywire. And we all have been there. And then we find ourselves losing control, and then we try to regain control without stopping, taking a breath, and considering all the options before us. So once we become aware of those challenges and we become perceptive of those, we are able then to develop empathy for someone else while listening to them effectively, I may say, while listening to them effectively, then you're able to transition and help them. And as leaders, we know it's so important for us to effectively manage our expectations while promoting change, especially when looking at Riley, it was very difficult for her, but she was able to control her emotions. So let's talk about self-care.
So self-care is extremely important because we always, as educators, I won't say 100% of the time, but it's close. We put ourselves last because we think it's selfish. We feel that, we have to take care of everybody else. But self-care is so important because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't. So if you're drained, you have nothing else to give. There are some things that we can control, some things we cannot. So control the controllable, especially during COVID-19, during this pandemic. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, do those things that keep you safe, socially distant, but only stress over things that you can control. Well, don't stress, but don't stress, but just keep in mind that there are certain things that you can control. Carve out time for self care to maintain your mental health. Do you like to go for walks? Do you like to go on a run? Do you like to just sit in the dark? What about just listening to music, cooking your favorite meal, getting your nails done, getting your hair done, going to the barber shop to get a haircut, working on your car, playing with your animals? Do something that benefits your well being. Get your body moving to help with your mental health.
Exactly.
A walk for 10 minutes if you don't have 30 or if you don't have 45, a 5-minute walk around the block, a walk around your school, walk around your house to the mailbox. Just take in that fresh air and get your body moving. Model self compassion. It's not feeling sorry for yourself, it's understanding how you're feeling,
Right.
just realizing how you're feeling and noticing that. Don't just put all of your feelings on the back burner. Set reasonable expectations for yourself and for others. There are things that you want to do. What goals do you have to set to get there? You may say, I want to climb Mount Everest, but we know that takes work, that takes planning. Or You may just say, I want to run a marathon or I want to run a 5K. What steps do you need to take to get to that point? And communication is vital for maintaining mental health with faculty and staff. Don't leave things open to for people to assume. State what you mean what you say, and share clear expectations. And set office hours during remote learning. There are some times when you need to carve out time for meetings. There are times when you need to carve out time to plan for meetings. But let people know when you're available so that your phone isn't ringing all day or someone's not knocking all day. It's okay to set those boundaries, especially during remote teaching, because you still need time to plan for pieces that you're working on.
And you also need time to just rest. It's okay to take a deep breath and turn off your devices. It's okay. You need to also make sure that when you're turning off your devices and you're resting, that the people closest to you know that, hey, I am taking a break from social media for a couple of hours. I won't be answering my phone. I won't be answering my computer, my emails. I won't be opening my computer for the next 3 or 4 hours, so that the people around you will know that you're taking time for yourself. And I think that when you share that you're doing that for yourself, they'll feel permission to do that for themselves. And I know that adults don't think that they need permission, but them seeing you take care of yourself gives them permission to take care of themselves. So make sure that you share that with those that you know and love. Okay, so during this virtual learning experience, we have tried to celebrate the adults in our buildings, celebrate the adults that we know and love. And one way that you can celebrate in teachers or teacher types is give them extra planning time. Give them self-care time to take care of themselves. We've also found that skipping meeting pass works. So that when they've met all the requirements for the week, just give them an opportunity. Hey, you have 3 free meeting passes. You don't have to come to 3 meetings. Just let me know which 3 meetings you want to skip. Teachers will work hard for a skip a meeting pass after work. Oh, you can't go wrong with that. Thank you phone calls, texts, and emails. They always work. It's always important to say thank you if you have time, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. But write a handwritten thank you note. Mail it to your faculty and staff members, telling them thank you, telling them they're doing a great job, letting them know that it's okay and that we will get through this together. One of the most innovative strategies of reconnecting with teachers, we actually gave teachers a stamp, an envelope, and a desk note. On the desk note, it said, write a note to yourself. The teachers wrote notes to themselves, put them in an envelope, and we mailed them to them at a random time during the school year when things got hard. So we wrote the notes at the beginning of the year, mailed them in the middle of the year. The teachers were not expecting the notes, but it was a handwritten note that they wrote to themselves to encourage them during that time. So it was inexpensive and it was so meaningful for teachers. Also, you can try lunch on me. Send a cash out. Allow them to have a lunch date by themselves. Send them a cash out. Factor in staff members of the month. Factor in staff member of the year, of the semester. That's a way to celebrate them. Mailing gift cards and certificates is also another way to celebrate faculty and staff members. And don't leave anyone out, whether it's the custodians, the cafeteria workers, the secretaries in the office. Don't leave them out, because every connection can lead you to a positive interaction. So make sure that you don't leave anyone out.
And it's so important to work to build a team, especially if this is new to your building. Even if it's not new to your building, you need to backtrack a little bit. Assemble a team, a social emotional or a school climate team. Survey the faculty and staff. Ask them what ways they like to celebrate. Then plan what you're going to do. Prioritize what will get you the biggest bang for your buck. Share the plan, implement, be ready to monitor and adjust, because that happens. There may be something you thought was a good idea that wasn't a good idea, or you see something that you think may work for your faculty and staff. It's okay to try those things because we know as educators, we're always ready to monitor and adjust.
To make
Another way is to positively leverage social media. Share what's great and celebrate. What's going on in your building? How are you celebrating faculty and staff? Post it on your social media pages. Celebrate your faculty staff of the month. Celebrate Nurses Week, School Counselor Week, Assistant Principal. Celebrate anytime you can find a reason to celebrate, do so because it'll make your staff feel as though they're valued, and it goes back to creating that positive school culture and climate. If you don't have a social media page, create at least one and develop a social media posting plan. You don't have to post every day, but you may say, well, I'm going to post every Monday or I'm going to post every Friday. And you can put together a team to help with posting on social media so that it's not cumbersome. There's not one person having to do it all. And again, like we said, share those celebratory posts. When you have your faculty and staff of the month, make it front and center. Make sure you share that. So that way, you know that you're celebrating your faculty and staff. And I'm sure that they will definitely appreciate it.
And so we are so excited that we had this opportunity to share with you. As a quick recap, social and emotional learning is a large component of having a positive school culture and climate. It also has so many pieces. We talked about empathy. We talked about empathetic listening. We talked about getting in touch with your feelings and being able to control your emotions. We talked about self-awareness, self-management. We talked about connections and collaboration. But those are all pieces of a bigger puzzle. And so don't try to do it all at once. Try to craft a plan that fits your environment. So we do appreciate your feedback, and you can find us at The Power of Engagement. A lot of the resources that we have talked about will be on our webpage under the blog. So go to The Power of Engagement and you'll see our picture and go click on blog, and there you will find all the resources, including morning and afternoon huddle ideas.
Thank you for joining us.